Julian Dashper was a major New Zealand artist and a contemporary of mine. He was about the same age. He was hugely influential on my work as a curator. He died young in 2009, aged just 49, from melanoma. Ever since he died, I've been thinking of trying some way to put together some kind of tribute show to him, and the result has been Julian Dashper and Friends. Julian's work was always art historical in nature. He was always commenting on art history and the work of other artists. I thought that if I showed Julian's work on its own, it would be like listening in to one side of a telephone conversation. So I rejected that idea and went for a show where Julian's works would be in conversation with other artists. Older artists that influenced him, his contemporaries, and those who followed.
We had this fantasy that when we were really old, maybe like 50, God forbid, we would run a cafe and we would call it the age bar. That, you know, you had to be really old, like over 50, to actually go there. And we'd staff it entirely with young people. We would sit out the front like some sort of old Greek, ne'er-do-wells, playing checkers or being rude to dogs. And the day would just drift by. And I think that, while this is obviously a fantasy that we didn't achieve, but this, Julian had he had tremendous energy around and tremendous ambition around his art practice. And I think this is something that, particularly in a tiny culture like New Zealand, this is to be hugely applauded.
On the one hand, he wanted to be international and he wanted to be taken serious internationally, but he took New Zealand art very seriously as well. And the modernist aspects of New Zealand art he saw as being influenced by international art and seeking to have a relationship with international art. So he took that whole canon very seriously.
I think this is a very well curated exhibition because it doesn't include all aspects of Julian's practice, but I think it focuses on the key kind of period, I suppose, when he was pushing, boundaries. We had common areas of interest because, being an Australian artist was a kind of a bit of a sad fate, where what you did didn't count, beyond your own context. That's what Julian started to be interested in as well. And I think he kind of succeeded eventually too.
When you have a colleague like that who inspires or draws out or populates your own concerns, it makes the whole task, doable. Julian had not only a talent for friendship, but an astonishing kind of repertoire of anecdotes and observations about the world, which he managed to find the sort of a dull occurrence, and he'd turn it into sort of pabulum for real insight about the unlikeliness of the art-making process and the nuttiness of this kind of thing. In fact, he used to say to me, "No one asked you to be an artist, John."
I had the fortune of having him as a lecturer throughout my art school time, and so it's wonderful to be in this exhibition, and in some ways I see myself as as representative of a very large number of students that Julian really affected. He was an incredibly astute and committed and generous teacher. My work in the show is from 2009. It's called Collateral. It's a work that is an instruction for a prize show. It was a prize show called the Waikato Contemporary Art Award. And I sent an instruction saying that all the packaging material of the other entrants should be gathered together and made into a pile on the floor, and that would be the work. The work won the prize, which became very contentious, but in some ways this also sort of completed the work. Without it winning, perhaps it would have been operating in a different way.
I met Julian for the first time when I came to New Zealand in 1992, the so-called Abel Tasman year. It was part of a cultural exchange between the Netherlands and New Zealand. My work in the exhibition is a wall painting 418, untitled, and it's the basic shape that I use a lot in my works, that I call grip. Last year one was shown in Hamish McKay gallery here in Wellington. So I think that's the first one that Robert Leonard, the curator of the show, saw of mine, and he picked the most colourful combination, I think, to go with the series of drum heads of Julian that are in the show.
my work is kind of offering a commentary on Julian, and in some ways a sort of a funny commentary, you know, like I have that work that's a portrait of Julian, but he's a pipe cleaner figure in a little constructed studio. But in fact it is very realistic, and I like to say it could be a documentary photograph because it was a very realistic depiction of Julian in his studio at that time. If people grilled him too much about his work, or for example if someone was in the studio saying, well, what's this about, tell me about this, or tell me what this means, specifically when somebody asked him what this means, he loved to say, hey, I don't know, I only work here.